Some of you might protest that cartoon characters are not real and thus cannot be used to illustrate how to live. If you don't think Spongebob is real, why did you pick up this book? Interestingly, only cartoon characters and humans, while they can teach many lessons, routinely refuse to let anything be a lesson to them. This doesn't mean we can't learn. Obviously, we can. Or we'd all go around wearing plaids with paisleys and carving our initials on the boss's desk. But we'd rather have a root canal than let our dentist talk us out of our Jones for Snickers bars. We learn what we want to learn, and nobody teaches us a lesson. Actually, that's kind of neat in a way. We're stubborn. We are. We have our pride, as do SpongeBob SquarePants, Squidward Tentacles, especially him, the money-grubbing Eugene Krabs, the slyly clever Patrick Star, for whom dumbness is at least partly a facade, and even Sandy Cheeks, the perspicacious underwater squirrel, who would rather get her best pal SpongeBob fired from his job than let him convince her they must stop practicing their karate. Squidward, having gotten lost trying to deliver a pizza for Mr. Krabs, spends a figurative 40 days and 40 nights wandering the undersea wilderness with SpongeBob, subsisting on raw coral, rather than believe that Sponge actually knows the way home, and that it's just over that hill. Wisely, SpongeBob knows better than to try and make Squidward listen. The number one reason psychologists burn out and stop doing therapy is that only one patient in 1,000 will actually listen to what the therapist is trying to get across. It takes around 7 years to train the average clinical psychologist. Most of that time is spent drumming into these would-be do-gooders that a proper therapist, contrary to every instinct in his or her bones, never gives advice. This is why, if you ask your shrink what your dream about finding yourself suddenly naked in French class means, he or she will throw it right back at you. What do you think it means? Sooner or later, of course, most psychotherapists, deprived of the satisfaction of getting their points across without actually giving any advice, succumb to the irresistible urge to flat out tell their patients what to do. It should come as no surprise that shrinks refuse to let 7 years of graduate school be a lesson to them. Then the patient goes out and does the opposite, and the poor, frustrated therapist burns out with the sound of popping corn. This book, Absorbing SpongeBob, is full of advice. In nearly every 11-minute episode of the show, there is some lesson to be learned, if only we could. Lessons about handling our fear, about heeding life's little stop signs, about hard truths that are better learned in books than from experience. SpongeBob and his friends routinely dish out lessons on economics, the importance of timing, family values, theology, existential stuff, and getting along with yourself and others. We excuse this subtextual moralizing because the lessons are delivered with a light touch that never spoils the fun. SpongeBob is a good little guy that he might at first seem not to need to learn anything. He is clearly the bright and shining star of his undersea world. However, as the visitor to Bikini Bottom quickly learns, Sponge's goodness is not the same as Sally. While it often seems that he is not learning the lessons his actions spring on, he is a very absorbent fellow. The proof of this is that the way he lives has resulted in a glowing inner happiness that can never be dimmed for long. This is what we all want, right? Happiness. SpongeBob loves life. He is ready. His example provides good lessons for us all. The reason this does not stop him from getting into jams is that jams are an unavoidable part of life. SpongeBob and the other inhabitants of Bikini Bottom are a lot like us, only funnier, which is why they are real and alive despite being only cartoons. Funny is good. And hey, if you happen to be that 1 in 1,000 person so highly evolved you actually can let something be a lesson to you, this book is your chance to prove it. The first way. Handling fear. 1. Don't sweat the small stuff. Most everyone would agree that fear is a bad thing, especially when it happens to them. Different things scare different people. More precisely, cartoon characters and human beings are born with 2 different types of nervous systems that help determine what scares them. It's good to know which kind of nervous system we have, so we can use that mutant growth at the top of it, our brain, to finesse ourselves out of being afraid. And yes, this really is possible. The 2 episodes of SpongeBob will illustrate the 2 types of nervous systems. And then we'll move on to why, aside from how nasty and unpleasant fear is, it is both possible and important to be less afraid. In an early episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, Squidward Tentacles, Sponge's next-door neighbor, unthinkingly tosses a shell out the window of his stone fortress house, which resembles one of those tiki heads from Easter Island, only darker and more sinister. The shell drifts over and lands in the front yard of SpongeBob's sunny orange obsessively camped pineapple home. Instantly, Sponge pops out of his pineapple, eager grin on his face, leaf blower in hand, power pack strapped to his square back. He fires that sucker up and, like all leaf blowers, it is noisy. Among the many things Squidward can't stand is noise. Squid likes it quiet. He is always hoping SpongeBob and Patrick will go away for the weekend to a jellyfishing convention or anywhere at all, so he can venture from his stone keep to sun himself in peace. So it should come as no surprise that when SpongeBob fires up the leaf blower, Squidward gets hopping mad, and with 4 legs, he is a better hopper than most. Squids outside Bikini Bottom have 10 legs, some of which are, arguably, arms. That Squidward has only 6 arms and legs is no doubt related to the reason Mickey Mouse has only 3 fingers. Why does noise make Squidward mad? Let's skip past the obvious. He doesn't like noise. And go to the not so obvious. Squidward gets mad because noise startles him, and startled is the first part of scared, and nobody likes to be scared. Axiom: an angry male squid is nearly always more fundamentally a scared male squid. Less true of female squids, because it is more okay for them to admit they're scared. Male squids, like the males of certain other species, learn at a very early age that they aren't supposed to show fear. It's unmale squidly. So, whenever squids and this other species hint, raised partly on playgrounds, are scared. An evil jinn transforms the fear straight into anger. But at its root, the anger is really fear. Proving this hasn't been the digression you are beginning to suspect. Spongebob, unfailingly kind, doesn't mean to irritate, much less scare Squidward, which, with a dime, will buy Squid 8 minutes on a parking meter. Why is Squidward scared of a little or even a lot of noise? Because he is an introvert. For most people, this word evokes that shy, skinny kid in high school who kept to himself, wore dark clothes, had body odor, and when spoken to, gave us a strange smile and sidled away. For others, the word is synonymous with male engineer, who looks at his shoes while he talks to you. Female engineers stare you right in the eye and never blink. The reasons for this sex-linked difference are beyond the scope of this book. When introvert comes up in conversation, what we think of, in a word, is shy. From here on, introvert means one of those two types of nervous systems shown on page 10. Okay, this is a nice drawing. Extrovert nervous system says, I want to hold your hand. Introvert nervous system says, nope, go away. Go away.